Mas Pandet.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Pak Panut, could you tell us?
Have a look at you.
You can look at me.
Okay.
Look at me, yes. So could you tell us a bit more about your work in Indonesia? What do you focus on?
Hi, my name is Panut Hadisiswoyo. I'm the founder and director of Orangutan Information Center. We work to save orangutan and their rainforest homes in the Lower ecosystem and surroundings. The Lower ecosystem is one of the largest intact forests left in Southeast Asia. It's the only place on the earth where orangutan, tiger, elephant, and rhino live together in the same place. But unfortunately, all of them are critically endangered. So my focus is to save the orangutan, but by saving orangutans, actually we also save other species.
And what do you think is the biggest threat to orangutans right now?
The biggest threat is the habitat loss, and poaching, and pet trade, and orangutans suffer from losing the habitat, and then because of that, actually there are access for poaching and conflict and killing of orangutans happen because of the habitat loss. So the habitat loss is the trigger for all the problems that actually facing by the orangutans.
And how does the habitat loss come about?
Habitat loss is very, very huge. Like in Sumatra, there are, I think 80% of the habitat already gone. So now they have a limited space for the survival. And the lower ecosystem is the last stronghold, the last hope for the orangutans. If the lower ecosystem actually destroyed for development, for plantation, for industrial expansion, palm oil, then there's no hope for the future of the orangutans.
Right. But for habitat loss, at this moment, what is the biggest cause of it? Who are the biggest drivers?
I think the industrial plantation expansion is the biggest threat, the triggers, the drivers of the deforestation. And this is, I think, a big message that, orangutan is actually the climate change hero, because orangutan actually is the best, a gardener of the forest. They plant trees every single day because they actually eat fruits, and they actually, when they poop, have feces from the seeds of the fruits, they actually help the forest regeneration. So that's very important to actually save orangutan and save the forest. It's just integrated. You cannot just separate from saving the orangutan only or saving the forest, but actually both.
And then recently, Sumatra, we had the recent forest fires. Were you there during that period, and do you know what was the biggest sort of how the orangutans affected by that episode of haze?
Yeah, partly we actually rescue orangutan as a result of fires. When we rescue orangutan trapped in the plantation and the small forest left in the plantation concession was burned by the workers, and then we rescued them. So definitely it's a big impact on the orangutans, and many forests actually be destroyed because of the fires easily. Many habitat of the orangutan, they actually in the plantation burn in one day, and then they have to find a way for shelter, become refuge in any bad condition, and we have to really rescue them, to translocate them. So not just mentioning about other impact like the health, because they are wild in the forest. We don't really know what happened to the orangutans when the haze actually really hit them, attack them. So, but definitely fires destroy their habitat, and in a large scale. Not only to that, but it's a big message that the loss of the forest actually releasing so much carbon, and so very, very important to really keep the forest intact, especially the orangutan habitat. So as I say, the orangutan is, I think, the mascot for the climate change message.
Okay. So I want to find out a little bit more about this rescue efforts for the orangutans.
Yeah.
How does it happen? So when the fires reach the concession zones, will you send out a team to look for the orangutans?
Yeah.
How does it happen?
So we rescue orangutans when we actually receive report, or also when our team monitor the area. And then just in October this year, when the fires happened badly, so our team actually found orangutan being stranded in the small forest parks. They are actually burned by the plantation, and then we found it, and then we tranquilized the orangutan, and then we managed to translocate orangutan from the bird area to the safety into the forest body, and and sometimes we also receive report directly from local people who saw orangutans in the surrounding of their farmland that near to the plantations, because they are pushed out from the forest body and they are trapped into the farmland. So we rescue them. We have a special team to do that.
I see. So you transport them to your own sanctuaries, your own conservation areas.
Yeah, like we translocate directly to the forest because they are wild, so they are not expat, they are not actually habituated. So we can directly translocate them into the forest body, to the conservation area. Yeah.
Then maybe for the haze issue in Sumatra, would you say that there has been much progress made in the last sort of few months, the last episode of the haze?
Especially in the northern part, in the Losar ecosystem, this year the fire is much less compared to Borneo, compared to the southern part of Sumatra. You know why? Because I think there are many efforts from civil society organizations like our organization, our coalition, working actually to prosecute the companies that actually involved in the slash and burn practice. And 2 companies in the northern part of Sumatra in the Losar ecosystem actually have been convicted of burning the peatland. And one company actually was fined about almost $26 million US. In addition to physical punishment like jail punishment for the manager and the director. So that is a big precedent. That's why I would say that law enforcement is very important to reduce and even prevent fires in Indonesia. As the case in the Losar ecosystem, that 2 companies already punished by the government. There is a big precedent that should be actually promoted. So in other part of Indonesia, there can be a showcase that can actually reduce. For next year, fire season will come back again. So we have to really showcase the case that anyone that involved in a burning practice, or especially in the peatland, they must be punished. That will be effectively reducing and preventing the fires.
So prosecution of the errant companies is effective, is working. Then what about, I don't know if you've heard, but in Singapore we had this big company called Asia Pulp and Paper, APP. So they were found to be burning the land, and a lot of the supermarkets in Singapore pulled down their products from the shelf. So it's essentially a boycott. So when these things happen in Singapore, the buyers, does it actually send any kind of signal to does it actually make things a bit better in Indonesia?
It depends. Yeah, I think boycotting can be a solution. Can be also a way to actually regulate. So there's a question: boycotting or regulation, like regulate or boycotting. So actually, I have to say to regulate the boycott. To really give pressure to the company to do good things, to be sustainably in their practice. So that they have we have to I don't know, like boycotting is the solution, but I think if they are really found to become a bad guy, I think boycott can be a solution. But for many ways, I would say that we need to regulate the boycott. What kind of boycott that we need to implement on the ground. That's really effective. Is it really effective for the industry, for the whole, for the conservation, wildlife, ecosystem, and things like that. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Were there any boycotts in Indonesia happening?
Not very strong, about. I think because generally Indonesian people, still can avoid consuming things that come from, companies that providing commodities, providing, for example, palm oil, and then it's very difficult to actually select the best way to, for example, choose palm oil that come from no deforestation policy. No deforestation commitment. So I don't see a very strong of tension from the community to boycott certain company or product, because I think maybe 10% of people really care, but the rest maybe don't really care about what's going on with environment. So some people, like, well informed, they might actually consider not choosing certain products because they know the source, actually the crops actually causing deforestation and something like that.
Okay, so that actually leads me to introduce to what we're doing in Singapore. So we are working with civil society, a few NGOs, including WWF. We are running a campaign to encourage consumers to buy products that are made from sustainable palm oil, so RSPO palm oil. So now we are pushing consumers to be more aware and getting them to sign a pledge. A little bit like, I don't know if you've heard of the Really Young Life movement. It's also started by WWF Indonesia. So it's putting that positive pressure on Singapore companies, or at least any companies, to buy RSPO oil for their products. So do you think that's what we focus on? Do you think that will be effective?
Yeah, consumer voice is very, very powerful. Consumer actually can lead the industry to really put the commitment into practice, and you can actually pressure the industry to do good things, And I think I would say the destiny of the rainforest in the world, it will depend on the consumers. If consumers want the forest being kept as forest, then they must voice their concerns, and the industry will follow you, because they will not lose. They don't want to lose their consumers, their resources to actually develop. Otherwise, they will not follow what the consumers want. So I think again, consumer is very, very, very powerful.
Okay. So now we are at COP, and the focus is really on climate change. And recently, the Singapore government, the environment minister, really said that Singapore needs to cut emissions, of course, but we need to focus on tackling the haze problem, because it's causing a lot of carbon emissions just from the forest fire. So do you see the Indonesian government also starting to realize that link between climate change and the haze, and wanting to do more because of the COP?
If we fail to address the fire problem, then we fail to achieve the target by reducing emission of 29% from the Indonesian government, and want to increase to 40% if the international community want to help. But what's the point of actually reducing emission if you cannot solve the problem of fires? And unfortunately, in my opinion, that deforestation in Indonesia is not well addressed in the COP21. It's a huge issue. It's a global issue that affects the region of Southeast Asia. That it's a big community that affected by the fires. Millions of people, affected by the fires. Not only in Indonesia, but also in Singapore, in Malaysia. But it seems that the fires and deforestation not actually being addressed so much in the COP21, and especially with the mass deforestation in Indonesia. They're contributing such carbon storage in climate change regulation. The forest in Indonesia play important role. This should be addressed properly here.
Why do you think it's not being addressed on the global stage enough?
I think we actually probably focus so much on the energy renewable energy development, but actually looking at the deforestation issues, it's not something that probably the states want to focus so much. Since the COP21 focus on the much more renewable energy development, but keeping forests intact is actually the key to maintain the climate. If you cannot maintain and if we cannot keep the forest, like natural forest, then what's the point of talking about climate change and reducing emissions? Once the forest actually destroyed, then there is a huge amount of carbon, especially peatlands. There are so many, they store carbon so much, 3 times than actually trees on the above the ground. It just the peat itself stores actually 3 times more than the trees. So yeah.
So do you have any more questions? Maybe what is your hope for the COP? I mean, you did say that you hope that the deforestation will be brought up to the same level as, say, renewable energy. Is that your biggest hope for Tom?
I think so. I want to keep forest as forest, and it doesn't necessary that it's not necessary that the industrial movement actually allow to expand their plantation, for example. So I think stop expanding plantation into the forest. Stop any development into the peatlands, and stop the fires. If you can stop expansive development into the peatland, then you will have fires all the time, every year. So this must be a big commitment to stop any deforestation in high carbon stock forests like peatlands, and also of course tropical forests.
Okay, great. I have one more question, but not on